Which animals could actually take on a full-grown Tyrannosaurus rex? Certainly not too many. After all, the T-Rex was not only one of the largest carnivores of all time, with a length of 12 meters and a weight of 6 to 10 tons, but also one of the strongest. The Tyrannosaurus rex has the highest bite force of all theropods, and an extremely thick and solid skull with teeth that can withstand extreme pressure and are longer than those of all other carnivorous dinosaurs. Who can take on a beast like that? We'll look at candidates from all ages of Earth's history to find out. The first thing that comes to mind are a couple of theropods that are not necessarily stronger than the T-Rex, but could defeat it with a bit of luck. There is, for example, the Gigantosaurus, which lived in the early to late Cretaceous period 30 million years before the T-Rex. The dinosaur was a little bit longer at up to 13 meters, but was still of a similar weight. The Gigantosaur's physique suggests that it was faster and more agile than the T-Rex, but on the other hand, it had much less impressive bite force and a more primitive set of teeth. Its brain was also smaller, and its senses were probably not as developed as that of the Tyrannosaurus. A fight would still be very close, and the Gigantosaurus would definitely have a chance to win. The same applies to the Carcharodontosaurus, which, like the Gigantosaurus, comes from the early Cretaceous but did not live in Argentina but in the area of North Africa. With up to 13.7 meters, this dinosaur was even a little longer, and it also had slightly larger arms with sharp claws and 3 fingers on them, so one more than the T-Rex. Its skull was a little longer, but not quite as massive as that of the T-Rex, and its bite was not as strong, but the teeth were extremely dangerous and up to 20 centimeters long. The biggest difference between the T-Rex and the Carcharodontosaurus was probably intelligence, which can be seen, for example, from the fact that both the cerebrum and the entire brain of the Carcharodontosaurus were smaller. Overall, the T-Rex is probably a bit stronger and more developed, but a fight would still be very exciting, and Carcharodontosaurus can absolutely win. The situation looks similar with the Mapusaurus from the late Cretaceous, the Tyrannotitan from the early Cretaceous period, and a few other theropods with similar dimensions that have almost the same physique. The fight against the famous Spinosaurus looks a little different. It is a good bit longer than the dinosaurs just mentioned, but in my opinion would probably have a worse chance of victory. This is mainly due to the body frame and prey pattern of the Spinosaurus, which specialized in fishing and riverside life rather than hunting giant dinosaurs. Of course, with a length of 16 meters and a weight of 17.9 tons, it was a dangerous opponent for any dinosaur, and its long arms with huge claws could seriously injure a T-Rex. The long neck, however, is a weak point. Another special feature that the T-Rex could take advantage of is the Spinosaurus's lack of stability when it stands on 2 legs. Of course, the Spinosaurus can also get down on all 4 legs, but in return, it gives up a bit of height, which makes it easier for the T-Rex to attack the neck. In my opinion, the T-Rex wins this fight a lot more often, but if you want to know more about this matchup, I also made a whole video about this topic that you can watch. The next animal that could defeat a T-Rex looks completely different from all previous ones. It's called Ankylosaurus, and it comes equipped with a huge club. With a length of 9 meters and a weight of 4 to 5 tons, this dinosaur was significantly smaller than the T-Rex, but it had 2 good counters. On the one hand, its thick armor made of bone plates that were embedded in the skin and protected the dinosaur from various attacks, and then of course, the tail club. With the thick, bony tail end, Ankylosaurus could defend itself, strike with a lot of momentum, and break the bones of its opponents. Tyrannosaurus rex and Ankylosaurus lived in the same area at the same time, and there is even some fossil evidence that the Tyrannosaurus hunted this herbivore. Hunting such a dinosaur was certainly not easy, and a few hits with the club on the legs could bring the T-Rex to fall with broken bones, which would ensure a tragic demise. The even smaller Denversaurus might have a chance too. It did not have a club at the end of its tail, but it did have small spikes in hardened areas, and its armor and pointed tips made sure that it was quite well protected. It could also use the spikes on its shoulders to attack the T-Rex's legs, which would certainly cause some damage. Attacking with its tail might also be a possibility for the Stegosaurus to win the fight, but it's not really clear whether it actually used its spines at the end of its tail as a weapon, or whether they were just for display. In addition, the Stegosaurus was not well armored, which makes it much more vulnerable than the previous 2 candidates, which is why, in my opinion, it would have extremely poor chances of victory. The next candidates weren't particularly well armored either, but they were so big and heavy that no carnivorous dinosaur could really harm them. and these were the largest sauropods, the titanosaurs. Among them was, for example, Dreadnoughtus with a length of 26 meters and an estimated weight of 59 tons. Or Patagotitan majorum, whose length is even estimated to be 37 meters and its weight at over 70 tons. With such dimensions, even a T-Rex would no longer pose a threat, but here we have the problem as with the largest marine animals, the baleen whales, and that is that they cannot really attack and fight back. There is evidence that a few sauropods may have used their tails like a whip, but that is by no means proven. Stomping attacks, on the other hand, are definitely possible, but catching a much faster little theropod with them wouldn't be easy. So with a little luck, a titanosaur could really win, but at least it couldn't lose. A fight with the famous Triceratops looks completely different. The three-horned face was even a little shorter than a T-Rex with a length of 9 meters, but it had a stocky build with 9 to 12 tons. In contrast to the sauropods, the Triceratops was armed with horns that could be used to attack, and its neck shield possibly protected it from life-threatening bites or was used for thermal regulation. The researchers are not entirely in agreement about that. The three horns of the Triceratops were mostly used in territorial and mating fights with conspecifics, but of course they would also be useful in a fight against a T-Rex. One advantage they had over the carnivore was probably speed, because they were able to gallop like rhinos do, for example, and could have reached 30 to 40 kilometers per hour in this way. Due to the low build, Triceratops had an extremely stable stand. A rush attack by this dinosaur could cause serious damage to the T-Rex, even if its horns only hit the legs or belly, and could also knock it to the ground. So you should not underestimate herbivores, even if they aren't as large as the titanosaurs. The next candidates are also extremely interesting, since they are the only land animals that can compete with the T-Rex for the top spot of the strongest bite, namely prehistoric crocodiles. Above all, Purosaurus brasiliensis and Deinosuchus. At 8 to 12 meters, the crocodile god Deinosuchus was about twice as long as today's largest representatives of crocodiles, and at 3 to 5 tons, also many times heavier. It was still significantly lighter than a T-Rex, but with a bite force of 102,000 newtons, it exceeds the dinosaur, whose bite force is estimated to be between 35,000 and 60,000 newtons. A bite with that much force would be devastating, especially if the croc catches the T-Rex with a surprise attack while it's drinking on the riverbank. Purosaurus, which developed 55 million years after the Deinosuchus, was even bigger and reached a really impressive weight of up to 8 tons and a correspondingly strong bite. In an open area, it would still be at a disadvantage in a fight against a T-Rex, but in a swamp or near another body of water, and above all through a surprise attack, it would certainly be able to defeat almost any opponent. In addition to dinosaurs and prehistoric crocodiles, there are also other animals that could defeat a Tyrannosaurus rex. For example, the largest rhinoceros of all time, Elasmotherium. This animal actually lived up to 50,000 years ago, and therefore probably met humans. After all, the area of the habitat of Elasmotherium stretched from Europe to Asia, and humans had already spread over a large part of the world by this time. With a length of 5 meters and a weight of 5 tons, it was about the size of an Asian elephant. In contrast to these, Elasmotherium had a powerful weapon, namely a heavy, powerful horn on its forehead. With it, it could possibly defeat a Tyrannosaurus, much like the Triceratops sometimes did. However, I think that the prehistoric rhinoceros has significantly worse chances, because on the one hand, it is significantly smaller and lighter than Triceratops, and on the other hand, Elasmotherium did not have nearly as strong opponents at its time. While a Triceratops really had to compete with a T-Rex to survive, the rhinoceros had nothing comparable, and therefore no experience in handling such a threat. It would most likely run away and, in the vast majority of cases, be eaten if the T-Rex managed to catch up with the rhino. A particularly brave Elasmotherium that puts up a fight and has a little bit of luck could potentially do enough damage with its large horn to defeat a T-Rex. The odds are, of course, not very good, but it's not inconceivable that it will happen once in 1,000 cases. There is another prehistoric animal that is neither a dinosaur nor a crocodile and has a better chance of victory than the rhinoceros, namely Paleoloxodon namadicus. This prehistoric elephant measured over 7 meters in length with a height of 5 meters and a weight of 15 tons, according to some estimates, even 20 tons. This made it the largest elephant species and probably the strongest land animal that is not a dinosaur or a crocodile. Due to its size alone, Paleoloxodon has a slightly better chance because it not only surpasses Elasmotherium, but also the T-Rex and even Triceratops. In addition, the elephant was armed with particularly large and straight tusks, which it could use to defend itself. Due to its height, a T-Rex would not be able to bite its neck from above, and thanks to its weight and stability on the four massive legs, a T-Rex could not knock it over either. An aggressive ramming attack by the elephant could push the less stable T-Rex to the ground or even impale it. In any case, it will not be an easy fight for both candidates, and the match is really close. A few million years after the dinosaurs became extinct, a new giant creature emerged that became the largest of its family, Titanoboa, the largest species of snake that ever existed. Some people believe that this animal actually had a chance against a T-Rex, however, I have my doubts. Titanoboa was 13 meters long and measured more than 1,100 kilograms in weight. It was therefore significantly larger than any snake species that is still alive today. For comparison, the largest officially measured snake, Medusa, only reaches 7.67 meters and 158 kilograms. But still, the prehistoric snake is much smaller than a T-Rex. It is longer than the Tyrannosaurus, but only slightly, and its weight is only a fraction of that of the theropod. In order to defeat this dinosaur, the snake would have to bite firmly and wrap its entire body around the T-Rex and squeeze it tightly. In my opinion, its length and strength wouldn't be nearly enough to cut off the blood supply of such a huge animal. Although pythons and anacondas are able to kill quite large prey, their meals usually weigh at most as much as the snake itself, and not 5 to 9 times as much as in this case. But what do you think? Does Titanoboa stand any chance against a T-Rex? Write it in the comments. I actually see better chances for the strongest land animal living today, the African elephant. With its good stability and tusks, it has the same advantages and weapons as Paleoloxodon namadicus, just a good deal smaller. While a large T-Rex like Sue would probably handle an elephant very quickly, I could imagine that smaller specimens would have difficulties with this prey. Sue and Scotty, the two most famous T-Rex skeletons, are also bigger than average, and there used to be a lot of T-Rexes that were much smaller. A particularly large elephant bull and a smaller T-Rex would certainly deliver a close match in the event of a fight, and I do not consider it completely impossible for the elephant to emerge victorious. The largest measured elephant came from Angola, which was about 4 meters high and weighed 11 tons, so even more than a large Tyrannosaurus rex. But the T-Rex would clearly have the better chances when both animals are of average size. In terms of speed, the two are on par, but the Tyrannosaurus had the strongest bite of all dinosaurs, and hunting large, powerful prey was nothing unusual for this predator. As you can see, there are not many animals that have a good chance against a T-Rex. Above all, large sauropods and theropods that are similar to the T-Rex would have the best chance in my opinion. Primeval crocodiles would of course be extremely dangerous, especially near water and with the element of surprise attacks. But even after the dinosaurs, there were still challengers like Paleoloxodon that could be trouble even for large T-Rex specimens. Do you know another animal that you think would have a chance against a T-Rex? Then be sure to write it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. Take care, see you next time.